Springfield's Talk 104.1 and a good day, everyone. Welcome to the show. We've got, I guess, less than a week. When's July 1st? Is that next Monday? Next Tuesday?
Wow.
Yeah.
That happened quick.
That did happen quick. That is the final day to get signed up for our Great Escape, which will be taking place right after the election. That will be November 10th through the 16th. All-inclusive, incredible time doing the show there. Costa Mujeres, north of Cancun, about 45 miles. And it's a new resort for us, and it looks fantastic. Very exciting. It is beautiful. But our deadline for our group sign-up is July 1st. So if you've been putting it off, you want to make sure and go ahead and make arrangements to get yourself reserved on the trip so that you don't miss out on it. And that's all I have. It is a lot of fun. We've got the details at ksgf.com. The cost is incredible for what you get. In fact, I was just talking with some friends over the weekend who had gone on our previous Great Escape, and it was the first one that they had gone on, and they travel quite a bit. And we were talking about how the last day they remarked how they undersold it to themselves because of the cost. They thought, well, it can't be that much. I mean, it's of course going to be a good time. We're going to have an enjoyable time with other people that we know and people that we are just getting to know. But they were just really surprised about how nice it was for the price. And I think that's something that oftentimes we just fail to convey.
Yeah, we're underselling it, apparently.
Yeah, I know. Well, apparently, at least in that instance, we were underselling it a bit. So we all go together. Of course, it's just $1,800, a little over $1,800 per person for the junior suite, all inclusive. That covers airfare, that covers food, that covers everything you can imagine. And one of the great things about it is you don't have to do any of the planning. It's all taken care of. We all get on a nice bus together to go to the resort. And then if you want to go do your own thing, you most certainly can, or you can hang out with us if you want to. It's just your trip. Do what you want with it. And, of course, we do the show 3 days while we're there as well. And we always have a catamaran that we take out and dance on it and drink and swim and it's just a really good time. KSGF.com, Great Escape, the details there, including how to reach out, contact information, Cam at the travel group, and she will get you all set up. We've got the debate coming up on Thursday. I think that it is, to me, it's a little bit humorous in that we all recognize that there are serious cognitive issues with Biden, right? And we all talk about, well, at least some time ago, whether there would be a debate. I thought that there was a 50-50 shot that they would not debate, given what is the clear disadvantage Biden has cognitively speaking. Now, it getting moved up so early in an unprecedented way makes me believe that this is a last opportunity for him to prove himself before they decide whether or not to replace him. That perhaps this is done in advance of the convention so that they can still pull the emergency chute and have somebody else replace him, have time to figure all that out. But that aside, I think it was reasonable that a lot of people, we thought, there's surely not going to debate, cannot wait for it. We just, it's something that with bated breath Trump supporters have been anticipating. But then as you get a little closer to it, you start to get a little bit nervous. Like, well, what if he does pull it off okay? I don't think anyone's expecting him to do a stellar job, but for him, grading on his curve, I do believe that a lot of Trump supporters, they, worried he's going to get pumped with drugs and he's going to make it through and seem for him to not be as bad as he could be. And you just get that just a little bit of caution, I think, as that time does get closer. So that'll be Thursday. CNN is not allowing most networks to carry it. I think there's one other television station, but anyway, we will not be carrying it here. That's just not something that CNN is allowing, which you can understand why. They want as many people as possible to tune into their network. But so that's coming up just obviously a few days away. And there's going to be, I imagine, a lot of focus on abortion. Let me tell you something. Angela Luna is holding by. We're going to get the news here. I believe that they're banking on the overturning of Roe v. Wade as something that was going to help usher in a second Biden term. I think that they're realizing that that isn't necessarily as solid as they were hoping that it would be, because they're starting to lie about things with abortion. They're starting to make false claims like Donald Trump. If he gets elected president, there's going to be a federal ban on abortion, things that he's very specifically been against. And the fact that the Democrats are beginning to lie about what's going to happen with abortion indicates that it isn't going to be the issue that they thought it was in the upcoming election. And it could still be, but they're behaving as if it's just not doing it for them to the degree that they hoped that it would. The Pyramid Roofing Company talk a text line 447 KSGF. Look at that weather in a moment. There is a heat advisory in effect for the entire listening area until 8 o'clock tonight. Right now, the latest news update. The first alert forecast sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt. That heat advisory in effect for the entire listening area until 8 o'clock tonight. High of 95 today. Heat index value reaching 104. Tonight, 50% chance of showers in the overnight hours, a low of around 71. 87 tomorrow with the 60% chance of morning showers. And then Thursday, sunny with a high near 88. A1 Custom Car Care, all of your car care needs. Tires, full service tires now. Got separate tire shops. Oftentimes you have to make a separate trip for that to get full-blown tire replacement and all of the work that comes along with it. But A1 Custom Car Care, all of their locations now also do full tire service, so you can do it all in one stop. That's A1 Custom Car Care. KSGF.com, speaking of A1 Custom Car Care, one of the sponsors of Care to Learn donation drive, and you can get more information regarding that at KSGF.com. On the Dobbs anniversary, Democrats remain obsessed on abortion. Yesterday, marking 2 years since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade with the Dobbs v. Jackson decision, though, of course, someone had leaked an opinion draft months before. It was another one of those instances in which, remarkably, the investigators were not able to figure out who it was. Was presumably somebody on the left that was trying to derail, that was using their position and their ability to leak that information as a way to create a tremendous amount of backlash and perhaps scare the Supreme Court into changing up their opinion on the case out of fear that it will just tear the country apart. And, of course, there were the illegal protests that were violation of federal law outside the homes of the justices that Merrick Garland told law enforcement, stand down, let them protest, do not arrest them for violating the federal law. Then, of course, the official decision 2 years ago, yesterday, would be released by the court. And it wasn't really that shocking because even Ruth Bader Ginsburg had noted in the past that at some point this would be overturned because of the faulty nature in which it was premised. With the decision, the Democrats made it sound as if women were going to be dying in alleyways. I mean, we're just going right back to the same old, the rusty hanger presentation that you would have these women whose lives were in danger. And the only thing that could possibly save their lives was to get an abortion. And Donald Trump was making that impossible. And that there were going to be women dying in the streets and having all these babies that they did not want. And there really was a marketing push out there that I believe for a period of time did falsely convince a lot of people that this meant abortion would be illegal. Well, it hasn't even diminished. The unfortunate reality is that since Roe v. Wade was overturned, there has been an increase in abortion. Well, that tells us that what it is that the Democrats were banking on scaring voters, particularly female voters, into believing has not come to pass. And I think that that has taken a lot of steam out of this issue for the Democrats because a lot of these women that were motivated, and guys too, I suppose, that were motivated based off this idea that you weren't going to be able to kill your own baby have found out that that's not the case. And that while some states do have bans on abortion, it doesn't take that long to drive across the state line in order to get an abortion. They are beginning to tell lies about abortion, the issue of abortion, in the context of Donald Trump getting reelected, which tells me that they recognize that this is not going to be quite the issue that they hoped it would be. So they're and they do what they always do. They take something and they believe that you don't have a full comprehension of how bad it is, so they have to lie about it in order to get you to the point of panic that you should be. But you just aren't there yet. And when it comes to this issue and their obsession with abortion, they I believe, are worried that people are not as concerned as they think that they should be. And the reason for that, again, is because what they claimed was going to happen, you don't have these women who have decided that they want an abortion and then they aren't able to get it. They are. I mean, there's more abortions going on now than prior to this. It's almost the opposite approach and situation that the Democrats are dealing with the economy, where they are telling us that it's all wonderful, but we know that it's not because we go shopping every day. We put gas in our cars every day. So we are living the life that is the result of the economic policy. So they can tell us all they want about, oh, it's the greatest economy ever, and it's just so wonderful. You just don't understand. But no, you don't understand. We do. When it comes to abortion, their approach is the opposite, and that is to tell you how bad it is, yet those that they're hoping would be motivated to go out and vote because they are afraid of dying because they can't have an abortion, none of that's occurring. And so you have some of these voters who maybe 2 years ago thought, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to kill my own baby. And they've done it since then. And so they're not as motivated. This is why you have Democrats out there now claiming that Donald Trump, if he gets elected, that he's going to put a national ban in place, that he's going to ban birth control, all of these nutty, insane assertions that are in complete contradiction to the reality. I mean, Trump's position has been, well, it's a state issue. Well, that's his position. The states figured out. In reality, at this point, Trump's pretty much done with the issue of abortion. As president of the United States, he doesn't plan, he's said as much, he doesn't plan on doing anything further when it comes to the issue of abortion. First time around, he was promising that he would nominate judges that were strict constitutionalists, which most of us recognize would mean the overturning of Roe v. Wade, something that I think even very pro-life people never imagined would actually happen. But that's done. He's finished it. Now he says, okay, it's where it should be. The states, whether you agree with it or not, that's his position on it. So the fact that you have Kamala Harris, you have Democrats, you have Joe Biden that are out there tweeting all of these absurd notions, like, for example, Donald Trump is going to ban all abortions federally, it's just an outright lie. And it tells us that the issue's not working for them to the degree that they had hoped. Doesn't mean that it's not working for them to some degree, but clearly it's just not getting quite the bang for the buck that they had hoped. And so they do what they always do. They have to make stuff up. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. The juxtapositioning that we are observing with the Democrats and their concern regarding the inability to have abortions versus their total and complete lack of concern of Americans, many of which are, well, mostly female and oftentimes young girls that are brutally tortured and raped by illegals, and they're taking on this new approach of being dismissive about it, acting as if it's not that big of a deal. And I don't believe that that is going to have the intended effect. Again, they're trying to set the tone for their policies. And this is one of those where they want you to believe it's not that big of a deal. It's, you got to crack a few eggs to make omelets. And that means some Americans have to be raped and tortured and murdered and left for dead, in order for them to advance their policies, then so be it. The most recent example, MSNBC host shrugging off illegal immigrant killing young girls, saying it's just 1 out of 11 million. As MSNBC hosts were dismissive on Saturday after a conservative guest brought up the murder of a young girl by an illegal immigrant, appearing to suggest it was an isolated incident meant to smear immigrants more broadly. So much for if it saves just one life, right? That's a mantra that is so commonly used by Democrats. If it saves just one life, well, I mean, not always. Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts had a tense debate about deporting illegal immigrants with multiple MSNBC personalities. Quote, "So what do these people do? What are they doing now?" MSNBC host and former RNC chair Michael Steele asked the folks, the 11 million, the 20 million, whatever you want to deport. And so, of course, his position here is defaulting to defending those who are here in the country illegally. What are these people supposed to do? Now, I'm going to throw out what some people might think is harsh, but why is that something that we should have to care about? I mean, this putting the responsibility on us, inviting illegals to come into this country, millions upon millions upon millions of them, and then when we say stop, the burden is somehow on us. Well, what are we going to do with them? What are they supposed to do? Frankly, I don't care. I mean, that is what I would call a them problem. It is not incumbent upon me because they came into this country illegally, though they were invited by the President of the United States. I'll give them that. They can't claim that, or we can't claim that they weren't signaled to come here illegally because they were welcomed here with open arms. But the fact of the matter is we do have laws in place, and we do have a pathway to citizenship that people do legally take. And so when it comes to, well, what about the millions that are here? What are they supposed to do? I don't care. I care about those who come to the country legally. That's a whole different story. I mean, I don't care anymore what I am supposed to do with all these illegals in the country than I would somebody who breaks into my home and steals from me. And then when I call law enforcement, well, what are you going to do with them? I'm not going to do anything. Get them out of here. They're in my home illegally. Now, the Heritage Foundation president noted that a lot of them are committing crimes like murdering the 12-year-old girl in Houston, which has become one of the increasingly frequent, horrific murders to take place in this country at the hands of individuals that not only came to the country illegally, but were caught and then re-released into the United States by our own government. When this was noted, Steele's response was, so that's one out of 11 million. Oh, now, there have been plenty more than that. There have been numerous instances just that have received high-profile enough attention that we're aware of it, but we also, I think, can recognize that there are a lot of these crimes that go unnoticed, or, perhaps they're never found. Let's not forget that there are 85,000 children that this administration is, quote, missing, that have been trafficked into the United States of America. I don't think it's beyond reason to recognize that perhaps when you have 85 million kids missing that you cannot locate, some of them probably aren't still alive any longer. This cold and heartless, dismissive nature of these people that are becoming victims in absolute horrific ways, unnecessarily, I think exposes the Democrat Party and the sympathizers to the Democrat Party in ways that they may not necessarily be recognizing. And much like the attempt to dismiss inflation as no big deal, to dismiss the price of gas as no big deal, to dismiss what is happening to Jewish students on college campuses as ultimately no big deal, the attempt to dismiss the increasing number of murder and rape victims because of people that were deliberately released back into the United States after having been found here illegally, dismissing them as, oh, it's not that many. I do not believe that that is the sort of thing that most Americans are going to be comfortable with. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. First Alert Forecast, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. From Color 10 Fox 49, meteorologist Tom Schmidt. There's a heat advisory in effect for the listening area until 8 o'clock tonight. A high today of 95, heat index 104. There's a 50% chance of showers, mainly after 3 a.m., with a low of around 71. 60% chance of showers tomorrow morning, high near 87, and then Thursday sunny with a high near 88. Well, according to the reports, Donald Trump has narrowed down his VP potential list to Doug Burgum, Marco Rubio, and J.D. Vance. What do you think about those picks?
I don't know. I kind of like Marco Rubio.
I'm still not going to be surprised if it's someone that is not being talked about whatsoever.
Did you see that he had made kind of a hint that maybe his VP pick, most likely, will be at the debate on Thursday?
Yeah, I saw that he hinted that to NBC, that they could be in the audience. Well, okay, I guess they could be. It's also classic Trump to me. The throwing, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way. I just don't take much of what he says in terms of clues or hints or that to mean much. He just has this, I guess you'd say, habit of coming out of left field with things. You're like, oh, well, that wasn't even on the radar. And so it could very well be one of those three individuals. It could be Marco Rubio. It could be J.D. Vance. It could be Burgum. Some are still throwing Tim Scott around in there. But however, these three have come to be the official final three. I'm not exactly sure, but that appears to be what sources are noting. But all that being said, it would not surprise me in the least. It won't surprise me if it is one of those individuals. And then it won't surprise me if it isn't one of those individuals, because he likes to do things that get a lot of attention. And this slow rollout, the slow whittling down, it just seems a bit contrary to that. It doesn't. I just don't know that there's any of these individuals that, given they've been talked about as much as they have, that it is going to result in a great deal of excitement. But, Mike Pence wasn't exactly the most thrilling choice either. Now, if you really look at it and think about it, and that announcement came, it was like, oh, okay, Mike Pence, all right. And I don't remember people getting that excited over Mike Pence.
How funny would it be?
Would it be Mike Pence again?
No. How funny would it be if it comes time to pick a VP and he's like, now, you guys aren't going to know him. This is Jake. He's from Kansas. He's a farmer.
Yeah. Just some complete
random person.
Just some random person. And that person didn't know it either. Total surprise to that individual too. Just I'll be glad they talk as if it's going to be during the Republican National Convention, which is just a couple of 2-3 weeks away, and I guess we'll see whether it is going to be some big flashy announcement or if it's going to slowly get whittled down to where we know ahead of time which it's going to be. I don't know. These conventions are so unconventional, it seems, lately. And I imagine that Trump's is going to be it's going to have great production value. I say Trump's, the Republicans. That's something that when he has a hand in, it seems to have a very high production value. I still don't even know whether Biden's going to show up to accept the nomination. Or, of course, even if he is going to get the nomination. It's a whole nother thing to ponder. I want to go back and just mention a few other stories regarding the illegal immigration and the position that the media and that the Democrats are trying to take when it comes to illegals that are murdering and raping women and children in this country, acting like it's not that big of a deal. Acting as Michael Steele on MSNBC dismissed it as, well, it's just 1 out of 11 million, referencing the murder of the 12-year-old girl. And this is a similar approach that they take with virtually everything that is going wrong for the American people. It's all in your imagination. It's not that big of a deal. You're blowing it out of proportion. The border itself, that, of course, was the approach. But the reaction that ultimately Americans have with the dismissive nature that the Democrats have presented with the economy is, I believe, also going to be similar and is similar to the reaction that people are having with these border issues. And that is a rejection of telling us that things are fine, that it's no big deal, when clearly they aren't fine, and it is a big deal. The mother of the Maryland woman, who police say was raped and murdered by an illegal immigrant, is ripping Biden's indifference to the nation's border crisis in an emotional interview with Fox News Digital, saying, quote, "It's like they're pretending these immigration problems don't exist and people aren't being harmed and killed by their policies," Patty Marin said. "The victims are those that are being killed, but also the loved ones that are left behind. It's devastating to the community." And I can't imagine being a person who loses a loved one, loses a parent, loses a daughter, a husband, a wife, in such a horrific fashion, and then have to turn on the television and hear an entire political party act like you're a racist because you have a problem with your child being murdered, or acting as if it's not that big of a deal. You're just some whiny parent. Kids die all the time. That sort of attitude that they're presenting out there, I can't imagine how infuriating and heartbreaking that is. In the case of Patty Marin, her daughter was Rachel, the 37-year-old who was raped and beaten before she was strangled to death on a Maryland hiking trail, leaving her 5 children without a mother. After a nationwide manhunt, police arrested El Salvadorian national and suspected gang member Victor Martinez Hernandez, 23, last week in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and extradited him to Maryland. In recent months, of course, there's been the horrific rape and murder of the 12-year-old Texas girl. There was an instance here, I don't know if it's this story, of a child that was found in a van with I think 5 illegal immigrant men, and that was here in Missouri. You have John Walsh, who people recognize from America's Most Wanted. And he was on a 6th annual Critics' Choice Real TV Awards. And while on the red carpet, he said, "What's happening at the border is an incredible travesty." He noted that cartels in Mexico are teaming up with violent Central American gangs to traffic unaccompanied children for profit. This isn't theoretical. This is what is happening. I mean, we are a nation that was appalled at the idea of kids in cages, which, of course, was something that began under the Obama administration. And part of the policy during the Trump years was to separate these kids from adults, particularly adult males that are of a young age when they've got 13 or 14 young kids in tow, and to try and identify, to make sure that they actually were the parent of these kids so that they could help diminish the likelihood that these kids are going to be sold into sex slavery. And the left went apoplectic over it. They just went absolutely nuts. This is the Ocasio-Cortez clinging to the fence, weeping moment. Now you have drug cartels selling kids into the United States. And total indifference. Total downplaying. Oh, it's just a few kids. Nothing to get in a tizzy over. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. Well, it is a running out to take advantage of Quick Draw Guns annual summer sale. Now, their sale is running right now through July 4th, and most guns are currently on sale. They also have they have doorbuster deals that you won't want to miss. If you haven't been there, it's a great little shop. That's where I went to purchase my first firearm. Couldn't be happier with the experience, and they also expanded their shop about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years, and they did that so they could better serve their customers, and they are now able to carry names that you can only find in their shop. The shop, it is pretty easy to find. It's about an hour's drive just straight down 60 from Springfield. And before you go, if you are out there and you're looking for a specific firearm or accessory, or maybe you just have questions, you can give Brad and his team a call today. Now, you can find all of that contact information for Quick Draw Gun, plus shop hours and the store address. All of that is going to be housed under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at KSGF.com.
All right, so a couple of the text messages on the Pyramid Roofing Company Talk a Text line regarding Trump's VP pick. It's Burgum. He knows computers, technology backwards and forward. Another saying that if it's Bergen, then he loses the base. If it's Rubio, he loses Florida's electoral votes. It will be Vance or Scott. And J.D. Vance, I think it was just as recently as a couple weeks ago, said he had not been vetted, though, again, some of these rules just seem to be more irrelevant than they did once upon a time about the vetting process, and that, of course, was part of what signaled whether the individual was really, truly being considered. But I don't know how much of that is still in play. There was a was this at a fight? Okay, yeah. So Trump joked. Did you see this thing about the UFC where he's joking with President and founder Dana White?
No.
Stating that he was telling Dana White, this is Trump, that maybe he should start a migrant fight league and having the champion fight the UFC champion, saying the migrant may be victorious because of their toughness. So he's, they're joking around. He's like, oh, you ought to start one for, illegals that come into the country. I'm guessing he meant specifically illegals, but migrants coming across and joked about, hey, pretty tough folks. You think about what they've gone through to get here to the United States. It's typical sort of a banter with Donald Trump. Well, at CNN, they're just all upset about this. Acosta on CNN's newsroom played a clip of Trump's remarks, calling them ugly stuff and dehumanizing. But Jennings said the former president was raising awareness of an important issue that is far worse than the joke itself. Jennings, this is Scott Jennings, commentator, said, in a way, only Donald Trump can. He's drawing attention to the violent activity that we have seen in places all over the country. Now, again, this is the virtue signaling we see from the left. These are people that seemingly do not care about the situation that human beings find themselves in or caught up in due to the illegal immigration policies of the Biden administration. But Donald Trump makes a joke. Well, that's what's dehumanizing? It isn't the selling and buying of children that's dehumanizing. It isn't the making Americans and oftentimes other illegals subject to the violent nature of what oftentimes occurs due to the illegal immigration. I mean, that's not dehumanizing. They're worried about a joke. Like, of all the things that there really is a potential need for genuine concern, it's the joke. That's what's dehumanizing to the folks over at CNN. It's ugly stuff. It's dehumanizing rhetoric, Scott. That's the quote from Jim Acosta. Jennings saying, listen, I mean, you can worry about it, the rhetoric, or you can worry about the murders, the rapes, the kidnappings that we've seen in a lot of these different stories. This is a big part of their campaign. Acosta then asserted crime's been coming down in a major way despite an influx of migrants. And, of course, statistics. And oftentimes what you get are people on the left that will falsely use statistics that indicate illegals are much less likely to commit crimes than individuals who are in this country legally. Those numbers are dubious. They are not accurate. The very nature of people who are coming into the country illegally are that they are people that are clearly willing to violate laws. Regardless of what country they're from, if your first introduction to this country is ignoring the laws, odds are you are going to be someone that ignores the law. But for all of the things, the reasons for concern, when it comes to the issue of illegal immigration, CNN apparently has finally found it, and that is the fact that Donald Trump made a joke about starting a migrant fight league, because that, in everything that we've seen play out over the last couple of years, is the dehumanizing thing. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. All right, we've got a firework giveaway. You can register for it, ksgf.com, along with Howder Fireworks. Register now, ksgf.com, or the KSGF mobile app for your chance to win a $50 gift card to Howder Fireworks. One lucky winner will be upgraded to win $250 grand prize card to Howder. Again, all of that information at ksgf.com, where you can also learn about Care to Learn donation drive sponsored by IHOP. July 1st is the deadline to get signed up for Our Great Escape, as we will be broadcasting live November 10th, will be in Costa Mujeres, Mexico, all-inclusive resort, the Riu Palace Resort. We shall leave November 10th and return on the 16th, just over $1,800 a person. And that is all-inclusive. That covers the airfare. That covers your taxes. That covers transportation to the Riu Palace Resort, which will all be together in a nice big air-conditioned bus, one of those really nice ones. And then, of course, just a week's worth of food and drink and having a wonderful time. But you do have to get signed up by July 1st. That is the deadline. And that's not our deadline. That's the deadline of the resort and or the airline, particularly the airline. That is, given that it's chartered flight and we all want to go together, we all get on the same plane, get off the same plane, that puts some limits on us. And Once those seats fill up, and then there's time frames, of course, involved as well, and that's why we've got the July 1st deadline. So this is your final full week. In order to get signed up, all the details and contact info for Cam is at ksgf.com under the Great Escape. Well, lo and behold, this is an amazing story that I'm going to have to share in the upcoming hour. How's that for a tease? Well, may wonders never cease. Left-wing fact checker admits Trump never called Charlottesville neo-Nazis very fine people. Snopes finally getting on board here. Now, this is appropriately enough, the lie that launched the Biden campaign. So he says, anyhow, that when he heard Donald Trump call Nazis very fine people, he knew that he had to run. That was the moment, of course. Like everything else, Joe Biden, it's built upon a lie. And finally, Snopes is even acknowledging that it's not true. Critics of Trump have claimed for years that he equated neo-Nazis with counter-protesters following the event. President Biden was chief among the critics, citing the supposed incident as a main reason for launching his 2020 campaign. Snopes writes, quote, while Trump did say there were very fine people on both sides, he specifically noted that he was not talking about neo-Nazis and white supremacists and said that they should be condemned totally. Therefore, we have rated this claim as false. The Snopes fact check now aligns with years of arguments from Trump's camp, who long stated, backed by transcript and video, that his comments were taken out of context. The fact checker notes that the false claim about Trump's comments, quote, spread like wildfire on the left, eventually being cited as a cornerstone of Biden's election campaign. And this is one of the reasons that you never see or hear the audio in its full context. It's the same reason that the media and the Democrats never play the audio of Trump encouraging people to storm the Capitol, because it didn't happen. You notice all of these things that we're told that Trump has said, all of these false quotes that are attributed to him, they never actually play the audio or video. That's called a clue. What on earth made Snopes finally get on board with the truth? Who knows? We're going to talk with Congressman Burleson coming up here in just a couple of moments. Also, a look at the weather. Heat advisory in effect. We're going to have a heat index of 104 today. Full look at that in moments. Now, the latest news. The first alert forecast sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements from Color 10 Fox 49. Meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Heat advisory remains in effect for the listening area until 8 o'clock tonight. Sunny, hot, high of 95, heat index 104. 50% chance of showers mainly after 3 a.m. with a low of around 71. Tomorrow, 60% chance of showers in the morning, high near 87. Thursday, sunny, high near 88. Streaming KSGF.com, also the KSGF app. Want to welcome to the show Congressman Burleson. I don't know if you saw this news, but finally, Snopes has acknowledged that it is false that Donald Trump called Nazis very fine people. This, of course, is what Joe Biden has long claimed was the reason that he decided to run for president, because Donald Trump called Nazis very fine people. Snopes has gotten their act together, and now they have fact-checked it as false, noting that he never called Nazis very fine people, and in fact said that neo-Nazis and white supremacists should be condemned totally. So I'm not sure what made them at least decide to come to the game as late as they did, but hey, better late than never, I suppose. Yeah, I know. But you do wonder what on earth, like, why now? You know? Uh, oh yeah. Mm. We were talking earlier this morning about the what we're told is the narrowing down of Trump's VP pick. He noted that in his mind he's got his pick, though the names that keep floating around are Rubio, Burgum, and JD Vance. Any thoughts on any of those individuals, or do you even think it will be one of them? You know, Trump is Trump, so it wouldn't surprise me if it's none of those individuals. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that would be one that, although he's been mentioned just because of his success in his days as governor, that are still ongoing. But yeah, that would be one that's not seen as the narrowed down list so much. The Of course, we're just a couple weeks away from the Republican National Convention. This is kind of a broad question, but didn't know if you had any thoughts about how that is expected to play out. I mean, obviously, we know who's going to get the nomination, but you've got several days of speakers, and is it going to be just pretty much run of the mill showbiz stuff? Right. It said what again? Oh, a coup. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. I honestly forget the Drudge Report exists. It's one that I used to always. I mean, it's been years. But then didn't he sell it, or he was said to have sold it, and there wasn't really a lot of information about who's running it, but it just did seem to go off the rails years ago. I mean, I think I wanted to say years ago, around maybe when Trump got elected, that the word was he sold it, but I don't know whether there was so much speculation, people trying to figure out why it went so nutty in the way that it was reporting news. So I don't, I'd have to go back and look whether that was more speculation than anything, but I just, like a lot of people, I think, have almost forgotten that it even exists. I wanted to ask you about, we were talking with Congressman Burleson. Yeah. hmm Yeah. Yep. Those are two on my daily list. I believe I asked you last week or the week prior about comments made by Representative Anna Paulina Luna regarding an inherent contempt vote resolution for Attorney General Merrick Garland. She said yesterday that it was something that she planned to force in the next few days. This is something that she notes has not been used since 1935, but the person being held in contempt could be arrested by the sergeant at arms and brought to the House floor for trial and can be imprisoned or detained in the Capitol. What do you see happening with this? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For a lot of people, and I would include myself in this, I get very frustrated at the Republican Party, especially those who note that there's a dual justice system, there's this hierarchy there. But it does take two to tango, and you do have instances like this where this would not be the playing out of a separate justice system because of Democrats, but because of Republicans. And, part of that equaling that equal approach is to treat everyone the same. And so whenever I see a scenario like this play out and you do have a member of Congress that says, all right, well, I mean, this isn't asking for anything outside of the power of the members of Congress. And here you have an attorney general that is refusing to turn over that evidence, the recording of the testimony. And it's just, if nothing gets done, that is, in my assessment, the Republicans creating a dual justice system because they're choosing not to, or at least not to do anything. Mm, yeah. 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 Well, and then in addition to that, Republicans in Congress seem to have no problem recognizing that that the approach to crime, when you look at blue counties, blue cities, and the soft on crime approach, and that they have no trouble noting, particularly during election season, that if the criminals are not afraid of the punishment, they are going to continue to commit crimes. Yet they seem wholly unaware that that same principle applies to people within this administration. If you do not hold Merrick Garland accountable, if you do not hold these people accountable, then they're going to continue to do it. And that inability to recognize the human behavior aspect of this is quite frustrating, I'd say. It is to me. Just yeah. We're talking with Congressman Burles, and the first debate is slated to take place on Thursday. For a long while, Trump supporters, I think, were just almost not sure whether Biden's camp would even have him debate. There's this anticipation, pretty far out that he's going to crash and burn, and that it's going to be a really horrific moment. But as we do get closer and closer to the debate, some of the Trump supporters I notice like, well, now he may be able to pull this off by his standards, and there's sort of this more cautious approach as it does get closer. Your thoughts about the debate?
Yeah, I think that we should not underestimate Joe Biden. I watched him at the State of the Union address. How it was probably an hour and a half, he had a lot of energy, and I don't think we should underestimate his staff and his ability to get jacked up on Mountain Dew for about an hour and a half and have like 90 minutes of clairvoyancy. But the rest, just like anybody who's elderly or or is suffering from dementia, there's you're going to have some moments
Right.
where you're at least some level of clarity, or at least getting close. But those moments are fleeting, and we've obviously seen that it's fleeting because we see him out and about doing his job, and he's clearly not able to keep
Right.
keep on top of it all day long. So, that being said, we're all looking at those moments where he's kind of losing it and forgetting that, this is how that mind works, is that there's going to be moments where he's on top of it, and they're going to do everything they can to give him all the sleep that he needs, get it, however many Celsius cans he needs, or Mountain Dew, whatever it is, to get him smelling salts, to like wake him up and get him going, right for those 90 minutes. Hopefully, Trump does so well that the Biden campaign feels like they have to respond and do more debates, because I think that unfortunately Trump had to basically take whatever he could get with this debate. Like this debate, everything is against him, as far as the moderators, the format, the way that the way that the microphones are going to work. All of that is all designed to handicap Trump.
Yeah.
But he had to take it because he had no choice.
Right.
But if he wins this debate, Biden's going to be requesting another debate to try to redeem himself. And I hope that that's the case. I hope we end up in a situation where Trump gets to pick the terms of the next debate.
Before we let you go, any final thoughts on anything this morning?
Well, heading back today, and we're going to be voting on the Department of Defense bill, the state and foreign ops bills, and my team has really done a great job. We've put together about 85 amendments to these bills, defunding diversity offices of diversity, equity, and inclusion, defunding all of the woke and weaponized things within the Department of Defense, including abortion related to travel. So we've dropped quite a few amendments. A lot of them have been included in the committee before they come to the floor, and then we're going to see if we can get a lot of them as managers' amendments, and then whatever's left, we'll be offering as amendments on these appropriation bills. So it'll be busy, and then what will happen, Nick? It's wonderful how DC works. Is you do all this work, and then you send it to the Senate, and then they wad it up and throw it in the trash.
Well, we will wait for that to occur then. Congressman Burleson, as always, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. I suspect the debate is a setup on Biden. They know that he'll have a terrible gaffe, and then they're going to try to replace him with someone like Gavin Newsom. He cannot win against Trump. The Democrats know this. I suspect that this is one of the reasons, possibly, that it's so early. I mean, you're talking about two individuals that don't have the nomination yet. Now, clearly, Trump is obviously going to get the nomination. I suppose this is the point of the conversation, is we don't know whether Biden is going to get that nomination, but this would give them a chance to see, okay, are we able to pump him with enough stuff? Are we able to juice him to the point that he can, by his standards, make it across the finish line of a 90-minute debate? Or is this going to be a train wreck, and this is our last opportunity to get out of this thing, to have Obama and the Clintons or whomever pull him aside and say, listen, you can't, you gotta pull out of this thing. And then, of course, speculation who would get the nomination, everything from Gavin Newsom to Michelle Obama, of course, is a name that gets floated out there as well. But the fact that this debate is so far in advance of the actual Democrat convention, I just don't know any other reason for doing it that way other than still then afterwards, in the aftermath, having the ability to hand that nomination to someone else. But we'll see. I mean, we will see, I suppose, Thursday. But you got to remember, standards are very, very, very low. He's got to really, really outdo himself in order to make that sort of catastrophic scenario play out, I would suspect. Traffic update, I'm Nick Reed. All of your home loan needs, refinancing needs as well. You may be thinking to yourself, why would I refinance? I've got a 3% interest rate. Refinancing is going to leave me with a higher interest rate. Well, you may still be able to come out ahead depending on any other debt that you may have. It doesn't have to be anything insurmountable, but this is where the characters and the team all come in and can be a tremendous assist to you. iwantagreathomeloan.com is where you start. They're going to get some info from you, and they're going to look at the landscape and see what your options are, and you might actually be able to save yourself money depending on your situation. But there's only one way to find out for sure, and that is by going to iwantagreathomeloan.com, because you do. The First Alert Forecast, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. From Color 10, Fox 49, meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Heat advisory in effect for the entire listening area until 8 o'clock tonight. Sunny, hot, high of 95, heat index of 104. Tonight, 50% chance of showers, mainly after 3 a.m. with a low around 71. Wednesday, 60% chance of showers in the morning, high near 87. Then sunny with a high near 88 on Thursday. New Department of Homeland Security document reveals that it labeled Trump supporters and Catholics as terror threats. The new report found that President Joe Biden's Department of Homeland Security labeling Trump supporters and military and religious people as potential terror threats to the United States. According to documents obtained by American First Legal, also known as AFL, the DHS board, called Homeland Intelligence Expert Group, revealed that the Biden administration views a person likely to commit domestic violent extremist attacks with those who support former President Donald Trump, are in the military, or are religious. If you ask researchers to dive into indicators of extremism and terrorism, they might indicate being in the military or religious. This being identified as an indicator suggests that we should be more worried about these people. We need the space to talk about it more honestly. There is a political backdrop to all of this. It seems that most of the domestic terrorism threat now comes from supporters of the former president. It is not like you want a political advantage, but people have attacked the government and its institutions for the last 6 years, that via the DHS documents. The documents cited so-called experts who research topics such as terrorism and fentanyl trafficking, saying these inflammatory records reveal the interworkings of the illegal partisan committee that we proudly stopped. AFL Executive Director Gene Hamilton told the Daily Caller News Foundation in a statement. The group also revealed in a separate filing that the DHS Intel Group proposed expanding Department of Homeland Security's reach into local communities in an ambiguous and non-threatening way, and contemplating ways to get teachers and mothers to report on their own children. Hamilton noted that all Americans should be alarmed about the content of these records. All efforts to weaponize the federal government against political opponents of the ruling regime should be stopped. Friday's AFL filings are the second installment part of a larger series called Deep State Diaries, in which they expose the corruption within the Biden administration. The first installment revealing how the Biden DHS examined ways to increase its efforts to steal intelligence on Americans, including attempting to get into local communities in what would be seen as a non-threatening way. So in other words, hey, don't mind us. We're here to help. Now, there's a couple of components to this that are problematic. One, of course, is that the Biden administration is targeting Americans. And we knew about the infiltration into the Catholic Church. We know, according to Department of Homeland Security, they talk to experts that in turn tell them that if you are a Trump supporter, you are, in all likelihood, a domestic terrorist. Now, we're told by the Democrats that they are the rah-rah America party that believes in freedom, that believes in democracy, and that Donald Trump is the dictator. However, what we see here is the behavior of a totalitarian regime that is weaponizing what is supposed to be a justice system in order to go after political opposition. We're seeing this, again, this isn't if they come after Trump, they can come after anyone. This is, they have come after Trump, and they have come after everyone that isn't a supporter. The second part of this is that they rely on experts instead of reality. See, when reality is inconvenient, you pay someone who is a so-called expert in order to give you the information that you want. We can look at the reality of the sort of people that not only, we don't have to speculate, that have carried out what many people would consider to be a form of terrorism. The Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer that tried to assassinate as many Republicans as possible during that softball practice. That was not a Trump supporter. We can go down the list of trans shooters that have gone and tried to take out, whether it's the Nashville, Tennessee individual that tried to kill as many white Christian kids as possible. Clearly not a Trump supporter. The Democrat activist that set out to assassinate conservative judges on the Supreme Court. John Roberts is the one that gets all the attention because it was outside his home, but the individual who sought to kill him had posted that he was going to take out as many conservative judges on the Supreme Court as possible in order to prevent Roe v. Wade from being overturned. This was not a Trump supporter that was carrying out this assault. Let's not forget all of the protesters that were violating federal law, allowed to violate federal law by Merrick Garland, who told law enforcement not to arrest these individuals. Had it not been for the sister of the Democrat activist that was trying to take down the conservative justices on the Supreme Court, then he may very well have succeeded, because it was her call to 911 that put a stop to it. I mean, see, that's reality. And that reality conflicts with what the Democrats want the narrative to be, and that is that it's Trump supporters that are the dangerous ones. Trump supporters that are a reason for the average American to be concerned, because it's Trump supporters that may shoot up a school or try to take out Supreme Court justices or kill as many members of Congress as possible during a softball practice. The problem is it doesn't jive with reality. So what do? They hire experts who study these things, not the things that actually happen. But they build off their own hatred of people that do not comply with the current administration, and then they use that in order to falsely label individuals that are the political opposition as being a danger to this country, which then justifies them doing something about it. Virtually every claim that is made about Trump supporters, about parents who have concerns about their children's education, is built on lies. And we mentioned at the opening of the 7 o'clock hour, Snopes, years later, has finally acknowledged the claim that Donald Trump said neo-Nazis were very fine people. They finally acknowledged that that's not true. He did not say that. In fact, he said the opposite. And when you think about that is the reason that Joe Biden claimed that he ran for president, which was a lie. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. July 1st is the final day to get signed up for the KSGF Great Escape, which will be just after the election. Hopefully, we'll know who the winner is. November 10th through the 16th, Costa Mujeres, Mexico, north of Cancun by about 45 miles. It is the Riu Palace Resort, all-inclusive, and for just over $1,800 a person, junior suites, airfare, taxes, food, beverage, everything, all-inclusive, hence the term all-inclusive. And it is, for those of you who haven't been, it is a tremendous time. We will do the show 3 days while we were there. And if, as always, we have a rule, if you come on The Great Escape, you can come on the show if you want to. You certainly don't have to. You can talk about the politics of the day, the election, if you just want to say hi to friends or family or just anything that might be of interest to you, take advantage of the opportunity and join us for the show. It's always a great time. It's a little more relaxed atmosphere than generally speaking. Sometimes there's mimosas involved, just kind of depending on the mood everyone's in. And if you do not get signed up by July 1st, that is the deadline, and you will miss out. So go to ksgf.com and get all of the information that you need while you're there in order to get yourself reserved. Also, while you're there, you can register to win up to $250 grand prize gift card to Howder Fireworks. There are going to be a number of $50 gift card winners, and then there will be one of you will get that upgraded to a $250 grand prize gift card just in time for Independence Day. That also at ksgf.com. Register for Lunch Bunch. There's a lot to do on our website. Red State has a somewhat humorous story. Joe Biden urged to sit down after Whopper told about women's rights and Trump. And as we noticed earlier in the program, the benefit that Democrats were hoping to get from the overturning of Roe v. Wade doesn't appear to be materializing to the degree that they wanted it to. And much of it's because they sold the sky is falling, and the sky did not fall. Since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, there have been more abortions than there were before. Now, whether it's connected in any way, shape, or form, don't know the answer to that. But what we do know is that it didn't outlaw abortion in the country, and that it hasn't even slowed down the number of abortions that occur. So people who love to kill unborn babies should be very pleased with the way things are going. But it was 2 years ago that you had Chuck Schumer whipping people into a frenzy in front of the Supreme Court saying, we're going to, if you dare overturn Roe v. Wade, you're going to hear from all of us, threatening. And it was because people believed, and this was part of the purpose, that they were no longer going to be able to get abortions, and none of that came to be. So that fear factor that they were hoping would emotionally drive this issue home for them doesn't appear to be materializing to the degree that they'd hoped. And the reason that I speculate this is the case is because they're lying about much of the abortion issue. They're falsely claiming, in fact, Gretchen Whitmer just got fact-checked on CNN yesterday because she falsely claimed that Donald Trump wants a federal abortion ban. And this is something that they're trying to scare people into believing because they claim that that's what was going to happen with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. It did not happen, and so they've got to keep that fear going. Biden tweeted out, 2 years ago today, Donald Trump's Supreme Court majority ripped away the fundamental freedom for women to access the health care they need and deserve, adding that the consequences have been devastating. Have they? Where are these devastating consequences? He went on to say Donald Trump is the sole person responsible for this nightmare. Now, the reason that Red State has written a story is not just because of the assertion through this statement that the Biden administration is the party that's there to protect women. And as you can imagine, there is a great deal, or has been a great deal of response noting the Title IX situation, noting that girls aren't even safe in the shower in the locker room any longer. Girls are not safe when it comes to competing against other girls. The right to assemble with people whom you so choose, that is no longer safe or sacred. When it comes to scholarships, when it comes to first place or second place, or even making it advancing on to the next round, that more and more girls are no longer being protected. They're not protected women in prison. We've seen rapes occur there because of violent sexual predators who are men that self-identify as a woman, and so they are put in a jail cell with women until they're removed for committing some more rapes. Who would have believed that that would occur? Not to mention the disproportionate number of women who are murdered, raped, and killed by illegals that are in this country due to the policies of Joe Biden. So if you want to look at the quality of life for an average woman in this country, if they want to consider abortion to be part of that, women are still having abortions, but everything else around that, most would argue, is a diminished quality of life for women as a result of the border policies, the economic policies, and the Title IX policies of this administration. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. All right. If you missed any of the show, fear not. We have the on-demand section, ksgf.com. You can get it there. I know many of you get it other locations like Spotify. You do you, as they say. We've got news in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 1041. My name is Nick Reed. Welcome to the show. The Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF. And guess what? We've got a Heroes Breakfast Friday, don't we?
That's right.
All
6 to
right.
9
Yeah,
a.m.
that's right, everyone. So, if you're a veteran, we'd love for you to come out and get yourself breakfast. It's as simple as that. 6A to 9A Friday. We'll be there broadcasting, set up at the table. We'll have these little coupons there, and you just grab one of those if you're a veteran, and you're going to get yourself breakfast. If you're not a veteran, of course, you could still come out and buy yourself breakfast or lunch if you'd like. They have a wonderful lunch as well at Scramblers. So that will be this Friday from 6 to 9. We're slated to chat with Will Scharf coming up here in the next few minutes or so, as he is running for Attorney General in the state of Missouri. He was actually one of a number of speakers that was the Douglas County Lincoln, or it's a Douglas County Women's. It was an event for candidates that were running all the way from every race conceivable. County level, all the way up, state level, federal level, had some representation on hand if for those individuals that weren't able to show up. Will Scharf was one of the individuals that was in attendance, and we'll chat with him sometime here in the next few minutes. Right now, the latest news update. The first alert forecast sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Heat advisory in effect until 8 o'clock for the listening area. High today of 95, heat index 104. 50% chance of showers tonight, mainly after 3 a.m., a low of around 71. 60% chance of showers tomorrow morning, a high near 87. Thursday, sunny, 88. Streaming, KSGF.com, the KSGF app. Real easy way to listen to the show. Want to welcome Will Scharf to the program this morning. It was good to chat. I was mentioning earlier that you were at the Douglas County event that I was also at and had an opportunity to speak with you a bit. And one of the questions I just want to start off, and I don't know if you heard the ad, but there have been for some time ads on television, radio that are attempting to label you as an elite outsider, soft on crime, and I just wanted to start off, if you would, respond to those accusations.
Yeah, well, first of all, Nick, great to be on with you. I mean, it's absolute garbage. The Jefferson City establishment's worried because we're running a conservative outsider campaign, and there's nothing more threatening to the lobbyists and the special interests who are bankrolling Andrew Bailey's campaign than an outsider who's not going to kowtow to them. You know, they're saying I'm soft on crime. You know, I led over 100 federal felony cases. I put people in prison for literally hundreds of years. I mean, it's just absolute garbage. And I think really it comes down to this Jefferson City establishment that's deeply scared of anybody who's not in hock to them potentially taking office. We've been all over the state. Missourians are fired up like they've never been before. And I think this August we're going to really put lead on target and start taking back Jefferson City for the people of Missouri.
What made you decide to run?
You know, really just dissatisfaction with Jefferson City. I think Missouri is a wonderful state full of wonderful people. I've spent basically my entire adult life here. And I just see this state falling into the abyss. You know, we're not like Florida. We're not like Texas. We don't get big, bold, conservative stuff done. We're a deep red state that just has this squishy establishment government that doesn't seem to represent the people of Missouri. So we've been all over the state. You obviously saw you in Douglas County. We've driven over 45,000 miles this campaign. We've been to literally every corner of the state. And I think people are just fired up. So we're ready to get in there. We're ready to really take back state government. And we're ready to finally have a state government that represents the people of Missouri and not the special interests and lobbyists and the permanent political class in Jefferson City.
We're talking with Will Scharf. Part of your resume is being one of the attorneys for Donald Trump. And for the longest time, there was this, I guess you'd call it a narrative that, boy, if they can come after somebody like Trump, then none of us are safe. And I think what we've realized over time is that they have been targeting Americans for some time, this administration, and even perhaps before that, the deep state, whether it's Catholics or homeschooling or just a number of different categories of people that are not in compliance with the elites. Talk to us a bit about that, if you would.
Yes, I've been representing President Trump for almost a year now. Our team has won victories for him in courtrooms across America, including at the U.S. Supreme Court. We're actually waiting on an opinion on our presidential immunity appeal for President Trump from the Supreme Court. We expect to have that this week. It's been a tremendous honor getting to fight back against this Biden campaign of lawfare against President Trump. And as you indicated, and as President Trump says, they're not coming after him. They're coming after all of us. He's just in the way. When you look at the modern left, they've just become totally unmoored from the Constitution, from the rule of law, from all the things that have made America great. And the only thing they really believe in is advancing the cause of leftism. And anybody who gets in their way, whether it's homeschool parents, whether it's conservatives, whether it's just anybody willing to stand up to their radical agenda, they've weaponized law enforcement. They've weaponized our courts. And they're coming after us. I think that's why it's more important now, more than ever before, for conservatives to stand up, to be united, to make sure that we have the right people in power who are going to fight back against this sort of leftism. What we've seen instead from Jefferson City for far too long is the opposite. We're a deep red state with a deep blue education system. Our kids can't read or write or do math, and yet our State Board of Education and our State Department of Education, DESE, seem to be mostly concerned with pushing DEI and social emotional learning and every sort of leftist buzzword in the lexicon. If that's their focus, I think we need to fundamentally change Jefferson City. I think we need to fundamentally change the direction our state's moving in, and that's really what this campaign is all about.
You mentioned what I think many people would agree, that we've got this sort of squishiness, if you will, in Missouri with the Republican Party. And we've watched it play out. The the establishment Republican Party versus those that are more conservative. And it seems oftentimes that it is the establishment Republican Party that's the biggest obstacle to getting a lot of this done. You're running in a primary, obviously. Are there any areas specifically that you think we're missing the boat in terms of the position of Attorney General, things that you might do differently?
Well, first of all, there's, in terms of the Republican establishment, I think one of the best things we've seen in recent years is this candidate vetting movement, is to force Republicans to go on record about what their principles are, force candidates to go on record about what they really believe in terms of our Constitution, the proper role of government, the proper role of the state. So I think it's great that conservative grassroots are waking up to the fact that just having an R next to your name isn't enough anymore. In terms of the current Attorney General's office, I think they're running an outstanding press operation and a lousy legal operation. They've lost repeatedly to Planned Parenthood in courtrooms here in Missouri. They've dropped cases. They've missed filing deadlines. They're hemorrhaging attorneys. I mean, they've had 50% attorney turnover in the last year and a half. I think we need an attorney general who's going to effectively advocate for Missourians' rights in courtrooms here in Missouri and around America. And unfortunately, I just don't think we have that today. They're launching these vicious personal attacks on me, and it's campaign season. I get it. But I just really want to focus on the issues, and I want to focus on the fact that Missourians just aren't getting the representation they deserve today.
We're talking with Will Sharp this morning as he is running for Attorney General. What's something about you that might surprise people?
What's something about me that might surprise people?
I know that's way out of left field, but just any sort of hobby or you as a person, whatever it might be, just something that people are like, oh, I had no idea.
I mean, I don't think it would surprise people that, I'm a big Second Amendment guy. I love shooting guns. I've been a competitive rifle shooter, pistol shooter for a while now. What's something that might surprise me? I think, I have a sense of humor about all of this. Politics can be pretty vicious. Politics can really kind of grind you down. To me, the most rewarding thing about this campaign is just getting to it has just been getting to drive around the state, meet great conservatives in every corner of the state, and we're just having a ton of fun with this campaign. So I think that's something that gets lost in this sort of silly season of campaign ads and attack ads and all that it's possible to do all this and sort of maintain a sense of humor about it.
Oh, I would definitely say, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, it takes a special breed of person. You do an event as the Douglas County Republican event, and I don't attend those very often at all. I was just asked to speak, and so I was very pleased to be able to do so. And those can go on late into the evening because you have a lot of people wanting to talk, and I think then people like you just go do another one and another one and another one and another one all across the state. It takes a certain breed of person, I think, to be able to do that and to enjoy it.
Well, Nick, I've never run for office before. This is my first time really going through this whole process. That Douglas County event, I think to me it was sort of fascinating. You and I were joking that it was going very late, but I think it's just great that you had a couple hundred conservatives and the way that they wanted to spend their night was coming out and hearing from candidates and really getting informed on all the issues, on all the different races on the ballot. To me, I mean, that's one of the things that makes America great. You think about Alexis de Tocqueville, democracy in America. You think about sort of what our founders intended, and they wanted active citizens. They wanted people who, were taking an active interest in public life and taking an active interest in the way that they were governed. And I think that's what we're seeing with conservative grassroots all over the state today is really just emblematic of that. And to me, again, that's the fun part of this is just getting to meet outstanding conservatives in every corner of the state. So whether it's down in Springfield where we've spent a ton of time, events like Douglas County, we were in Wright County recently, we're up in Monroe County in northern Missouri, just sort of outside of a courthouse with 70, 80 people. And, to me, that's really the fun part of this race.
Finally, with Will Sharp this morning, anything else at all, issues or the race itself you want to fill people in on?
I'll say this, it's been a tremendous honor to get to represent President Trump. I think some of the fights that we've had for him are some of the most important legal fights really in American history. This case that we have before the U.S. Supreme Court on presidential immunity now, I think it goes beyond President Trump, and it's really about the separation of powers, our constitutional system of government, getting to vindicate those core constitutional principles in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, in front of other courts. It's been a tremendous honor, and it's the sort of thing you kind of dream about as a young law student. So I'm excited about the work that I've gotten to do for President Trump. I want to bring exactly that same attitude to the Missouri Attorney General's office, put together an outstanding team of lawyers who can really make sure that Missourians' rights, our Constitution, our state Constitution, are adequately defended or properly defended, and that we fight back against this creeping radical leftism that unfortunately is just as present here in Missouri, a deep red state, as it is in other states around the country.
Well, how do you think, and I know I said that was the last question, clearly it's not, do you have a sense or a feel for what that opinion from the court will be this week?
We think they're going to recognize some doctrine of presidential immunity. We obviously want that to be wider. But it's really important to note that this whole Biden campaign of lawfare was designed to interfere with President Trump's ability to run for president. They wanted him stuck in trial after trial after trial for the entirety of this election season. And so far, we've been able to beat that back. We had that New York trial. We're going to get the judgment overturned on appeal. It's a totally lawless judgment, what the jury did there, what the judge did there. But other than that, I mean, President Trump has a clear slate to go out and do what he does best, which is carry his message to the American people. And it's been incredibly rewarding for me to be part of that effort, fighting for his rights and fighting for the rights of all Americans to get to hear his message, to get to choose a candidate of their choice at the ballot next November. I think we're going to put President Trump back in the White House, and I think we're going to make America great again. And I'm just excited to be part of that team and part of that process.
Will Scharf, Attorney General here in Missouri. I appreciate you being with us this morning.
Great to be with you, Nick. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care, and let us know when you are in Springfield. We'll have you in studio. Will Scharf, everyone there. VoteScharf.com is the site. Of course, we'll get any relevant information posted up there on our social media and KSGF.com as well. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. There was a question that, and I did not see it until after, I apologize. The interview with Will Scharf was over, asking how he counters ads against him, that much of his funding was from back east. The ad says he worked for Biden. The reference to working for Biden, I do believe it's because he was a federal prosecutor, and I guess a holdover. I know he was in some capacity, according to his website anyhow, he was involved in the fights to confirm Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. And then he worked as a federal violent crime prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Missouri. That is also on his site. And so whenever it references working for Biden, it's my understanding in that capacity, because Biden was president at the time, at least during part of that period of time, and he's the head executive, and you're working under the executive, and so it would have been in that capacity as a government employee, not a campaign employee. So I hope that answers that question. I wanted to just share with you an update that it's unfortunate, but this is what we've come to expect from the intolerant totalitarians on the left. And we had a discussion about a Republican candidate that is running against Betsy Fogel, an incumbent Democrat. And there was an event that was to take place at a local restaurant. Then the local restaurant had to cancel because they said they were getting threats from left-wing activists. And so it got moved to another restaurant, and that restaurant was told ahead of time, just so you know, these left-wingers are like, yeah, we know. They ended up canceling as well. And then finally, there was a third location that wasn't announced ahead of time so that it could not get canceled. But because of the threats coming from left-wing activists, they've announced that they're just never going to allow anything of a political nature again to occur at their location. And just the level of glee that is displayed online by those who are responsible for this sort of thing. I mean, they're not embarrassed. They're not ashamed. They have absolutely no even awareness of the environment that they are gladly creating, one in which business owners, some of the businesses in the district of the incumbent, and threatening. And when I say threatening, oftentimes the threat is, well, we're just going to tell people never to come there again. And, it's not necessarily the threat of violence. But when you're talking about small business, local business owners that are already struggling because of the policies of the current administration, and then it's like you're going to pile on even more simply because they were going to allow a citizen to utilize their facility as a way to help along the democratic process, which, if you listen to the left, they claim that they're the great champions of this. They claim that they are the political party that cares so much about the cherished process of the democratic process, yet here, doing everything they can in order to prevent a candidate from simply meeting with voters, giving them an opportunity to talk with him, to ask him questions. And I've still yet to see the news leader do any story on this, unless I've missed it. Every time there's a school board election or a city council election or any election that they can tie mean-spirited flyers to the candidates that they don't like, they get quotes from everyone. They talk to experts when it comes to the field of hate groups, and they do everything they can in order to try to connect the dots in order for you to realize who the bad guys are. Yet here you've got businesses that are local that are deciding to not even bother participating in the democratic process because of threats they're receiving. And there seems to be no concern there. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. First alert forecast, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals, from Color 10 Fox 49, meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Heat advisory for the area until 8 o'clock tonight. Sunny hot today, 95, with a heat index of 104. A 50% chance of showers, mainly after 3 a.m. with a low of 71. 60% chance of showers tomorrow morning. High near 87. Thursday, sunny. High near 88. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. Well, it is hot. And if you have noticed that your home is struggling with the heat this summer, it could be a variety of different items. But one thing that you may not think about is your roof. Now, if you have the wrong ventilation on your roof, it can actually cause quite a bit of damage. It can cause your decking to deteriorate, and it can cause moisture to get trapped inside your attic, and that can actually lead to mold issues. And of course, it can lead to temperature shifts inside of your home as well. So that is why it is very important to have a roofing company that understands your home and your roofing system. And that's why I want to recommend the Pyramid Roofing Company. I actually had ventilation that was working against each other on my old roof. And whenever I had my new roof installed, I immediately noticed that my home was cooler and that my AC was no longer struggling to keep up. So if it is time to have the Pyramid Roofing Company come out, do that free roof inspection for you, go ahead and give Josh a call today. You can find all of that contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
There's nothing that bothers me more than laying in bed at night and hearing that unit just keep running and running and running.
I know. Me too.
It keeps me awake. Oh man, there's something about it. I just feel the money pouring out.
Oh, I understand that.
And then I'm like, well, is it running efficiently? Why does it say, I mean, it's at night. It shouldn't be running this hard, this long. What do you keep yours at?
I'm at like 71.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
I get cold easy. I'm like a little old lady.
Yeah, you're a little Afghan.
Yep, that's me.
Exclusive Biden administration weighed using school children to register Dem-leaning voters, according to emails. Because, of course. The Biden administration sought taxpayer funding for a program that would have used school children to provide voter registration materials to Native Americans, according to emails obtained by Protect the Public Trust and shared with the Daily Caller News Foundation. Department of the Interior officials in 2022 developed a plan that would have given Native American children attending Bureau of Indian Education schools voter registration materials to bring home to their parents, internal emails show. Native Americans strongly preferred Democratic House candidates that year, with 56% saying that they would cast their ballot for a Democrat compared to 40% who said they'd vote Republican, according to a poll conducted by the African American Research Collaborative shortly before the midterm election. BIE team leader Jennifer Wigginton wrote in February in a 2022 email, department leadership is proposing having BEI send home voter registration cards with students to give to their parents. BIE's proposed native voter registration plan, according to the Department of Interior, attorney advisor Josh Berg, was formulated to comply with Executive Order 14019, which President Biden issued in March of 2021. The order compelled the heads of federal agencies to evaluate ways in which the agency can, as appropriate and consistent with applicable law, promote voter registration and voter participation. And we all know why this is. This is a way to utilize taxpayer funding in order to get out Democrat votes. It is not, we all know if the departments were overwhelmingly conservative, if these departments were dealing with conservative voters, there is no way this administration would be utilizing taxpayer dollars in order to try and rev up the vote amongst those grouping of individuals. Berg went into greater detail regarding the proposed voter registration operation, writing in March that he and his colleagues had developed a plan to distribute voter registration applications at BIE schools so that school children could bring home voter registration applications to their parents and or guardian. Under Berg's plan, the federal government would also have provided return envelopes with prepaid postage so that parents and or guardians could mail in their completed voter registration applications directly to the corresponding election office in their state. The BIE, which is a division of the Department of Interior, funds a network of 183 elementary and secondary schools spread across 64 Indian reservations in 23 states, according to the agency's website. These schools, 53 of which are directly administered by the agency and 130 of which are tribally operated, serve roughly 46,000 Native American students. Berg contacted DOI Deputy Assistant Secretary Eric Werwa on March 2nd, seeking to schedule a call so that the two could discuss funding for the BEI School Voter Registration Initiative, emails show. On March 22nd, Wingington and Brian Quint, a DOI attorney advisor, were sent a link to a meeting with the Office of Personnel Management where taxpayer funding for the BIE Voting Rights Initiative was to be discussed. However, DOI spokesperson told the Daily Caller News Foundation that there was no program to distribute voter registration materials to children attending BIE schools. Quote, "It's disgraceful that BIE would even consider diverting resources that could be used to increase student achievement, especially among a population of students that has already fallen behind," protect the public trust director Michael Chamberlain told the Daily Caller News Foundation. But this should be of no surprise. It is no surprise. Schools, right now, there is a struggle. There are those who want schools to be institutions in which young people get a really good education. And then there are those that do not worry about the education because they see the schools as a place to indoctrinate, to fill their minds with left-wing ideology, and apparently in this case, to try and use them in order to essentially ballot harvest. Because when you're talking about sending children home to their parents with all of the information, including a prepaid envelope filled out to send a ballot back to their voter, to the appropriate location, I mean, that's a form of ballot harvesting, using kids to do it. This is increasingly why we see a decline in childhood education in this country. It's because of the focus on social programs of the left. It is a focus on getting children to ballot harvest in the case of some of these Indian reservations. And I've noted, when you see that the left uses education to indoctrinate, you can understand why it is that they push for free college for everyone. Because in their minds, having your kids for 12 years isn't enough. You got to add that pre-K on there to get another 13. But then they want to indoctrinate even further out than that. And there's no concern about the actual education of the children. It would be one thing if we had it figured out. If test scores were through the roof, if kids from other countries were continuing to fall behind the United States. But that's not what's occurring. We continue to fail over and over and over again, while at the same time indoctrinating for these left-wing causes. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Wilder RV for all of your RVing needs, big or small, everything in between. What do you need if you're brand new to it? You may not know. You just love the idea of being out, heading down to the lake, or maybe just out in the middle of the forest. Wherever it is that you want to be, just the idea of traveling, maybe across the entire country. But if you've not done it before, you may not know exactly what it involves. This is one of the great things about purchasing an RV from Wilder RV. They walk through all of that with you, and they make sure you understand, here are the things you need, here are the things that you probably don't need so much. That way you get off on the right step. You don't want to feel like an idiot. You don't want to be an idiot. And they're there to help you not be one of those idiots, of course. They're just 85 miles north on 13. People drive from all over the country to purchase their RVs and to have routine maintenance done on their RVs at Wilder RV. Their site has transparency. You can do have a look at the financing and see what payments can be on an RV, up to and including one to accommodate a family, with monthly payments as low as one night in a hotel. WilderRV.com, Clinton, Missouri, also KSGF.com under Nick's endorsements. Pro-Hamas protesters were at it again Sunday, demonstrating outside a synagogue in Los Angeles, harassing worshipers, engage with pro-Israel supporters. Scuffles broke out. The LAPD had to intervene in what, of course, we're once again told is a mostly peaceful protest. Videos show an egg being thrown at a woman's face, lots of pushing and shoving, punches being thrown, and a substance, presumably pepper spray, being sprayed into the crowd. Multiple videos on social media depicting the mayhem. Visibly Jewish men, as you can tell by their attire, are seen attempting to pull away the pro-Palestinian protesters surrounding an ultra-Orthodox man. Another man holding a Palestinian flag can be seen physically fighting with a visibly Jewish man at the end of the video. A woman in the background yells repeatedly, "Stop." Additional post on the Today is America account shows further violence of the protesters, including a post claiming that one of their journalists on the scene was sprayed directly in the eyes with bear spray. Following the incident, people at the scene wearing Israeli flags can be seen in the footage providing him with assistance and water after the attack that hindered his vision. Further footage shows police on the scene clashing with pro-Palestinian protesters as they yell out, "Free Palestine," which of course means eliminate the Jews. The LAPD would eventually show up, calling it an unlawful assembly, and shut things down. Journalist Cam Higbee was pepper sprayed at point-blank range as he tried to videotape the events. We've seen these protests again and again, and despite what the media tells you, they often turn violent. We've also seen again and again that there seem to be no consequences for the rioters. They rarely are held to account by law enforcement. The message comes from the top that violent protests are to be encouraged. Just look at who recently Joe Biden promoted. This is a red state piece, and there's this weirdo, I think it's the Department of Interior. It's a cross-dressing individual that has a history of making extremely anti-Semitic remarks on social media. Of course, he's since the exposure of these posts claiming that's not who he is anymore, and it's the standard sort of attempt to try and evade any sort of accountability for those comments. But when you have an administration filled with anti-Semitic individuals, there is going to be an assumed sympathy towards other anti-Semitic individuals. And these people know that they are not being charged with anything meaningful. We live in a country where, just the slightest insult, if the government wants to, can turn it into a domestic terrorist threat. But if you are somebody that's actually calling for the elimination of the Jewish people, there's no charge of any sort of domestic terrorism. The administration only comments on these sorts of situations if they do it kicking and screaming. Largely, it goes ignored. And what unfortunately has occurred in this country under the current administration is this is becoming commonplace. We've gone in a relatively short period of time, the American people rightfully being outraged at the fact that in the United States under Joe Biden, it's not safe to be Jewish, to now where it's just, it's another Saturday, it's another Sunday, it's another college campus being infiltrated, it's another building being stormed, it's more people of the Jewish faith being attacked. You think about the way that this administration will hype up individuals that aren't actually victims as being victims, but then whenever you have real true victims, as unfortunately Jewish people are becoming in this country, they act like it's no big deal. They may make a comment here or there. They'll talk about, oh, this is unacceptable behavior. There's no place for this in our society. Well, apparently there are lots of places for this in our society, college campuses being one of them. You cannot have a society, you cannot have a culture in which you constantly pit people against one another, and then this is the inevitable outcome. All of the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, critical race theory, in which you create a hierarchy of oppressor and oppressed. I mean, you literally have these people trying to destroy us from within, taking what could otherwise be harmonious individuals or people that may not necessarily even like each other, but they don't feel compelled to attack one another, and creating an environment in which that's what eventually ends up happening. And the sense of righteousness from those on the left, the sense of virtue. I mentioned earlier Michael Hasty, who's running in the 135th, and these left-wingers that just, location after location after location, they openly encourage one another to harass these businesses for treating him like any other candidate, and that was just to have a sort of meet and greet situation. These different restaurants have rooms that you can rent out. You know, sometimes there's a cost. Sometimes the cost is just whatever food that you get. But we should be living in a civilized enough society to where, regardless of your political party, your political affiliation, you should be able to do that and not have to essentially be run underground. Whether it is for religious purposes or social status purposes or strictly along political lines, this overt hostility coming from the left is becoming the norm in this country. There was a time, if Democrat activists got caught threatening local businesses in order to prevent a political candidate from participating in the democratic process, that they would have been condemned by their own party. That does not happen any longer. Instead, they openly, on social media, brag about suppressing people's ability to participate in the democratic process. And again, it's from a political party that carries the banner of being supporters of democracy, when in fact their behavior demonstrates all across this country in different capacities that they are the furthest thing from it. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, home buying needs, home selling needs, everything in between. You're thinking about putting your house on the market. You're like, oh, I got to change this car. This carpet is so old. I don't even want to. I want to get the house ready before we have Emily over. Don't spend even a nickel changing anything or what you think is upgrading things, because there are a lot of those changes that aren't going to help you sell the home any quicker. And in fact, may just, just cost you money. And if it isn't going to help you move the home any faster, then is it really worth doing? These are the things that Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, can walk you through. You may find yourself surprised. There may be certain things that actually you need to do that you didn't realize. So the last thing you want to do is put a chunk of money into something that really isn't going to help up the value or the quickness with which the home sells, and then you find out that there's something you should have spent that money on instead, right? You don't want that situation. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, your first call to her before you make move one, before you make what you think is an improvement. Get with her first. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, also at KSGF.com. You can find her under Nick's endorsements. And while you're there, you can register to win anywhere from $50 to a $250 gift card to Howder Fireworks, and also learn about the Care to Learn donation drive that is sponsored by IHOP, among some of our other partners. And we do have a Heroes Breakfast coming up this Friday, so you want to make sure and make a notation of that. And then we're just days away. July 1st is the deadline to join us, to get signed up to join us for the Great Escape this November. Glenn Beck's next. I'm Nick Reed.